We go over to the unification of Italy. Now, Italy at that time, I had told you, was a fragment of many states. It did not actually experience any kind of commonness in any way. Although we find that Mazzini tried to establish the secret society and try to bring about a change in Italy, but it did not happen the way the upheavals happened in Germany, where there was a commonness, there was a sense of nationalism. Here, there was no sense of nationalism at all. In fact, if you see the map, these two Sicilies were with the Bourbon kings. In these two, Savoy and Piedmont was in the hands of Charles. Okay, Lombardy and Venetia was in the hands of Austria. Parma, Modena, Tuscany, these were in the hands of the cousins of Austria. Papal States was in the hands of the Pope. And all this whole of Italy never experienced any sense of unity. Okay. It is said that in Italy, every district fought with another district. Every village or town fought with another village or town. Every street fought with another street. Every neighborhood fought with others. Every neighbors fought with each other. So you find there is a sense of unity. People were only fighting. There was absolutely no sense of unity. Zero sense of unity. Yet it got unified into a nation by fluke. Okay. Let's see, it's very interesting what had happened at this time. It was Savoy and Sardinia and Piedmont, that Charles as the king, who was actually interested, in bringing about some kind of change and, making this a part of his kingdom. So what he did was, he started, there was some upheaval here and he started supporting the people of Lombardy. Austria doubted him and there was a war with Charles. And Charles lost. The moment Charles lost, his son, Victor Emmanuel, was made the king. Okay. So Charles is out of the picture. Now, Victor Emmanuel was as smart as the Germans. He had an aristocrat in his company who was called as Count K. And this man was very highly diplomatic and very smart. So under him, he ensured that Sardinia and Piedmont were highly militarized. And he started also supporting the people of Lombardy and Venetia. And then what happened? There was another war with Austria in which Austria lost. When Austria lost, what happened to Lombardy and Venetia? It became a part of Sardinia. Then, in southern Sicily, there was this man called Garibaldi. This man, he had, brought together people, his followers, wearing red shirts, and they wanted the Bourbon kings over there in Sicily to be overthrown. So they were basically against the king over there. So he started a movement in both these Sicilies, and his followers wore red shirts, and that's why they were called as red shirts. And he moved along with his people over here in both the Sicilies and made the king leave this place and go to Spain. Okay, they were the Bourbon kings of Spain, so they were thrown out. So Garibaldi had taken over this place, and he's supposed to be the most romantic hero of the Italian unification. Why? Because he did not have any greed. He did not feel the need to become the king of both the Sicilies. What he did instead was that he gave these two Sicilies to Sardinia, the king of Sardinia, Victor Emmanuel. And then, the moment Sardinia, won against Austria, Parma, Modena and Tuscany, those princes ran away, and this also became a part of Italy. In Papal States, Pope, except for a small place, all these areas were taken over. And Rome became the capital of Italy. And that was how the Italian unification place. Was there any sense of nationalism? Tell you the example. When Garibaldi started this movement, and all his people were, shouting, La Italia, La Italia, La Italia. La Italia means long live Italy. But the people, what did they think? La Italia was the name of the Queen of Sardinia. But you can imagine how ignorant people were. Yet you find that the unification of Italy took place with no sense of nationalism. Yet a nation state was formed. That was how Italy became a nation state. Now let's see how Great Britain was unified. Now let's see how the unification of Great Britain took place. This is the third unification that we are talking about. Here there is no sense of nationalism, but a forced sense and a forced unification which is taking place, right? So let's see. We all know that England was a small, very small country, and they managed to, be the rulers of almost half the world, which they had turned into the colonies, and therefore they became economically very, very prosperous. They had a lot of money with them. So when you have a lot of money, what will you do? You will use that money to extend your influence to other areas also. So because of this economic prosperity which they had, they started paying attention to the neighboring areas. Their neighbors were Scotland. So at that point, they were interested in Scotland also. But in the year 1688, what happened was there was a reversal in the role, and monarchy lost that kind of edge, and Parliament started playing a more important role. So the Parliament became very, very important from the year 1688. Now the complete English politics was dominated by the Parliament. Now the Parliament and the parliamentarians wanted that Scotland should be incorporated into, or joined along with England. So England to be joined along with Scotland. So there was an act of union, a kind of an agreement signed between England and Scotland, and in the year 1707, by this instrument which they signed, Scotland also became a part of England. And then the Scottish language, the Scottish culture, the Scottish living style, everything was squashed. English was forced on them, and people began to feel uncomfortable. But then there was no other way, because they had already merged because of this union, and their language was not given importance, their culture was not given importance. Similarly, Ireland, which was also the next neighboring area of England, they wanted that also to join England. In fact, the Irish people under Wolfe Tone, there was a lot of disagreement and a lot of unhappiness between them. Yet Ireland, which was predominantly Catholic, and England, which was predominantly Protestant, they helped the minority Protestants in Ireland and against the Catholics, and ultimately Ireland was also merged into along with England in the year 1801, and that was how unification of Great Britain took place. England became, you had the union of Great Britain, means you have Scotland and also Ireland joining, and that is why it is called as Great Britain. Okay. The English culture played a very important role. Everybody had to sing the song "God Save the King." The Union Jack was always, given more importance. English language was given more importance. People were not allowed to speak, Irish. Irish language lost its importance, and it was English language which was spoken all over. And that was how unification of Great Britain took place. So now, children, we see three different unifications. Unification of Germany, where there was an extreme sense of nationalism. Unification of Italy, where there was absolutely no sense of nationalism but the unification took place. And unification of Great Britain, that there was a forced unification which took place. So, nationalism in Europe, you find that the nation states have also been formed under different circumstances. Now, we take a break to answer the questions. After the three unifications, let's see how the people of Europe looked at their own nations. Children, when we give somebody a rose, it represents something. It represents your love for that person. Okay. When you see a lotus, and like Lord Buddha's carvings with lotuses, it represents peace. Or anything in white, like a white dove, it represents peace. People in those days, they started thinking about how they visualize their country. They visualize their country as a strong one. They visualize their country as a free one. So how to visualize it? You can't just draw a map alone and say this is my country, and every time you think about it, you visualize only that the geographical portion. You want to give it certain ideas that it represents. So people in France, they imagined that there is somebody called a woman who represents the liberty that people were enjoying, and this woman was called as, they named her as Mariana, and she was dressed with a red cap, a tricolor, and a cockade. All these, if you remember in the French Revolution, were the symbols of liberty. Okay, so a woman picturized in this manner was representing liberty, which was experienced in France. So that was how they visualized their nation. Then, how will people come to know that Marianne is the symbol of our country? So statues of Marianne was erected in public places, and then coins were printed with her picture on it, and that was how people came to know that Marianne represented the nation. Even on stamps, Marianne's face was there, along with that red cap and the cockade. So they started visualizing nations in this manner. Just as Marianne was the symbol of France, Germania, another woman who was, she was not a real woman, of course, a woman drawn, and she had an oak crown on her head. People visualized her as the symbol of Germany, and she was called as Germania. Why an oak crown? Because according to them, the oak crown was a representation of heroism, and therefore now people and countries began to visualize their nations in this manner. Having said this, let us come over to the last part in chapter 1, which is Balkan regions. Yeah. Let us see the difference between nationalism and imperialism, if you want to understand what was the problem in the Balkans. Nationalism is where a sense of unity and nations are formed. Imperialism is when you become a nation and then you go and try and dominate other countries, their culture, and you take over the economic hold on them, then it is called as imperialism. Like how the British dominated us, that was imperialism. Okay, but similarly, what happened at this time in the Balkan regions, it was dominated, all of them were Slav speaking. Like, Herzegovina, Czechoslovakia, okay, Yugoslavia, all these countries were the Slav regions. They were all dominated by Russia. Okay, and all of them wanted to be free from Russia, no doubt about it. But then, by this time, imperialism was very much there. So European countries started, interfering in the Balkan regions. When they started interfering in the Balkan regions, it became the hot spot of trouble. It was here alone, it was Balkan regions alone, which was the cause of the First World War. Remember that? So the Balkans became a boiling pot of disagreements between European nations because they all wanted to grab and have a hold over the Balkan regions. So the Balkan regions became the cause of the First World War. Now, if you see very carefully, you will find that, when you read the First World War, you will find that Russia, okay, England, okay, France, all of them played an important role in creating tensions in the Balkans. And that was how the First World War begins. With this, we complete this chapter, and I expect you to answer the questions as given in the pages. So kindly see to it that you write all the answers in your notebook. Thank you very much. Do not forget to subscribe and like this video. Thank you very much.